All right, what's up, suppliers? Thanks so much for joining us. It's kind of our pre-show. We are just getting set up. See lots of work going on here with the crew. I'm actually still waiting for Rob to show up, but lots of folks logging in. So check it out. Look, we got the guys from Milwaukee. They are on. DeWalt, good to see you guys. Oh, Spot Nails. All right, we got Team Spot Nails is on, and Radians, PIP. Come in, log in. We're going to give you the lay of the land here in just a little bit. But guys, we just want to thank you. This is our kickoff. You know, I said it earlier in our member meeting, and I'm so sad I'm saying this right now. This is our second virtual meeting we've done, and hopefully the last one. Hopefully we literally never have to do this again. But man, appreciate you so much, our suppliers. Thank you for your support for this event. You know, all your sponsorships and just your support over last year and this year. It's going to be great. So we're going to have some fun times together. I'm just killing some time. I see lots of folks still logging in. Come on in. I know we got some watch parties going on. Great. We got like 200 people on already. So this is fantastic. And it goes up. So I'm going to get started here in just a minute. But let's see, who else do we got? We got the MBW guys on. We got Team Dayton, new supplier. Team Dayton, thank you guys for hopping on. Wow, lots of folks. So guys, let's hold on. And I'm still waiting. This is making me nervous because Rob's not here yet. I have no idea where he is. He decided to drive from Georgia, which makes no sense to me, but we're live TV right now. I mean, it's 10 a.m. in the morning here in California. I think it's probably 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock, wherever you guys are. But thank you for joining us. This is kind of the kickoff to our supplier only meeting. We have all of our suppliers. Looks like close to 300 people on right now. Thank you for sending this out to your team. This is truly our opportunity. We hope we can brainwash you today. That's our goal, is we want to brainwash all of our amazing suppliers on just the value of Sphere 1 and all that good stuff. So let me give you the lay of the land for your schedule. So this is you can see it up on the screen. This is our supplier only meeting, right, at 10 o'clock. We hope you'll join us for the Inside Scoop, which is going to happen in just a couple hours at 12 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to be interviewing. We have Steve Richman from Milwaukee and Brandon Moss from Supplier. Going to really be talking to them not about their companies, but really about them and just how they build culture, how they lead. I think it's just some great ideas for all of us just to be better, right, and really how to thrive in our personal lives and our work lives and all that. So take time to tune in for that. And then tomorrow night is our awards presentation. So 4 o'clock, giving out lots of hardware. It's going to be amazing. So make sure and tune in for that. So you see that up on your screen right now. But I want to set the stage. And God, Rob still isn't here yet. I'm getting a little nervous, but I want to set the stage for what you guys are going to experience this morning. So when Rob finally shows up, I think he had to stop at McDonald's or something because he likes his hash browns. But when he finally shows up, he's going to come in and really give you guys just an update on Sphere 1, where we landed in 2020, kind of the highlights, the lowlights, things that we really want to focus on moving in the future. And that's going to be about 15 minutes. And then from that standpoint, guys, we flew in 5 of our board members, right? 5 of your customers. And we're going to go through kind of an interviewing fireside chat with each one of them. And our goal with these chats is we really want to give you all kind of the behind the scenes, the behind the curtain, right, on really how to win with the Sphere 1 distributor. So we hope at the end of today that you'll be able to take something away that just helps you be better and gives you more tools to win with our members. So it's going to be amazing. I'm going to stop talking. I freaking need to call Rob. So hold on just a second. God, this guy, I mean, you can imagine. You guys realize I had no gray hair before I started working in Sphere 1, and now I got tons of gray hair, and I call this side of my head Rob because that's just, hold on, let's call him up real quick. Hey, hold on, it's ringing. Rob, where are you, dude? Where are you at? What are you driving? That makes no sense. Guys, hold on. Okay, you're pulling in? Okay, I think he's pulling in. Finally, you're here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to turn it over to our fearless leader, our president and CEO, Mr. Rob Moe. Rob, thanks for showing up, man. It's good to see you, buddy.
Suppliers, thank you so much for being a part of our first true virtual presentation and meeting. While none of us wanted to not be together this year, we took into consideration what was best for you, our suppliers, and what was best for our members, knowing that we never want to go away from being together in person, but what could we as Sphere One do to adapt things and basically help you have a level of engagement with our members with you, and also our management team, our board of directors. What could we do to enhance things? So we hired a wonderful production company to help us kick this off, and I come to you today from beautiful Southern California. Mike, our board of directors, folks that have come in to help us put this on are all excited about what this is going to be for you, our suppliers. You know, looking at the monitors here, we literally have hundreds of people that are on, and I know that that probably doesn't even take into consideration how many of you are doing watch parties that you're giving offices and, you know, corporate facilities, etc. You know, 1% is something that Mike and I started focusing on a number of weeks ago. As many of you know, I shared a story, an ESPN story on a young guy named Chris Nickick, and young man that suffers from Down syndrome, 21 years old, and he was trying to, well, get ready and compete in an Ironman competition, 17 hours, marathon, swim, biking more than 120 miles. Imagine a normal person trying to do that and prepare for it, let alone somebody that suffers from Down syndrome. If you haven't seen that video that I sent out, I encourage you to Google that up and check it out. It'll bring you to tears, it'll tap into emotion, it'll tap into things that really we want you to experience, because in the end, this young man and something that his father put together for him is something that we're going to start embracing at Sphere One, what we all should embrace in our personal lives, and that is just being 1% better every day to deepen our foundation, to help us really create something that no one can compete with in the industry, whether a co-op, a supplier like you, or one of our members. You know, we wanted to share some things very important to us, and typically these things would stay inside of our member meeting. But I was given approval by our board of directors to share some things with you, some statistics that typically we wouldn't share. But these are very important for you to understand. I'm not going to sugarcoat our numbers in any way from 2020. We were down 2.63%. In the whole scope of things, if you strip away what members we didn't have in 2020 that we did have in 2019, we really finished up a little bit. But, you know, that's not the real world, right? You got to take the good with the bad. So we were down 2.6%. The 94.5% rate of return, that's important for you to know. We've never shared that with our suppliers before. But Mike and I have started talking with people, suppliers, leaders, when we're in our meetings with them, because it's important for you to know what we're returning back to our members. Those kind of numbers are walk on water in the co-op world. That's the amount of rebate value. 94.5% of the rebate value captured by our members is passed on to our members, which shows you that this organization, under our board of directors, really oversight, runs very, very lean and mean with our management team and our providers. So again, you'll be seeing more about that, but that's important for y'all to know. You know, while this is the supplier portion, it's important for you to know what our member highlights have been for 2020. In 2020, we had 101 of our members that grew year versus year. 44 of those grew more than 40%. So thank you to all you suppliers for helping that happen. We had 20 plus members that were brought on to the tune of $23 million in increased spend. Many of you have talked about the efforts of our organization, specifically Mike Schumard, that's responsible for our member development, by us always keeping the pipeline full of potential members, knowing that members sell their businesses, members get acquired, members go out of business. And one of the things that Mike and I, our board of directors, has always instilled in us, keep that foot on the gas, boys. And so Mike does an excellent job of doing that. We couldn't really share the highlights without sharing some of the realities, the lowlights. And it's important for you to know that 45 of our members, went backwards in 2020. 16 of those 45 were more than 20%. We lost 11 members coming into 2020 that represented about $38 million in spend. So while the $23 million we picked up didn't offset the $38 million, keep in mind, we're in the right direction. And that all has to be taken into consideration when you evaluate an organization, a co-op like a Sphere One. You know, the root causes are probably pretty transparent to all of you. It's about significant supply chain issues that many of you have had to deal with. Obviously, the impacts of COVID are a part of that supply chain scenario. But again, we wanted to make sure that you saw where the members were, because now I want to share with you a little bit more on where the suppliers landed. 68 of our preferred suppliers grew in 2020. Of that 68, 34 of those grew more than 20%. We added 7 new suppliers in 2020 to the tune of $6 million in increased spend. The lowlights were, well, we had 59 suppliers who declined their purchases with our members, and 16 of those declined that spend to the tune of more than 20%. Obviously, the root causes are the same. You guys are living that. I don't have to dwell on that, but it's supply chain issues impacted, for the most part, by COVID. One of the things that you're going to hear us talking about in some of our member breakout stuff that Mike and I are going to share with you, interviews that Mike and I had with the likes of some of our board members and members to just talk about some of the nuances that make sense for our organization. We're going to touch on growth incentives, and it's very important for you. We've never shared this information before with our supplier network. This was always something that we kept rather close to the vest. But this is important for you to understand the value of growth incentives. It's important for you to know that 80% of you as preferred suppliers provide our organization a growth incentive. That opportunity is an excellent one for you if you take advantage of it. We use those opportunities to encourage our members to shift those incentives from group type of incentives to individual incentives. And we make sure that our members lean into those. Why? Because an individual growth incentive can impact the member specifically and impact the growth over all of the organization. So coming from the supplier network, I know the value of group growth incentives. But for an organization like us, and for you as suppliers, the greatest value for you is individual incentives with our members and for our membership. So if you don't have an individual incentive, count on hearing from Mike and I before the end of this year and as we navigate into 2022 to show you the benefits of those and encourage you into putting those in place. I think in speaking about that, we have to show you the dollars. In 2018, we took in north of $20 million in growth incentives. Those $2 million, I'm sorry, came from 47 suppliers. 71% of the value that we captured came from individual growth incentives. You see, 19, we took in 1.6 and change. That came from 52 suppliers. 68% of that value came from individual incentives. Last year, even with COVID, even with what you and we experienced, 47 suppliers paid us a growth incentive. 1.35 million was in the form of that, and 87% of that was individual incentives. Man, that's huge, and it's important for you to understand the value of that. Sphere One University, and I'm not really going to talk about a lot of this stuff, but it's important that we transition into it. You want to focus on the value of this if you're a supplier, not participating. What I want you to focus on is the highlights more than anything else. The upswing we know was due to COVID. People were sequestered at home and they were taking the university courses, etc. But it's important for you to know that even during COVID, even with the supply chain issues that everybody experienced, our members who participated in the university with suppliers that provided content, when you marry those up, they grew 11% year versus year. Look at the amount of blue bucks that were paid out, almost $250,000. Look at the amount of course completions that were taken. You know what? Suppliers, it works. 91 of the 120 plus suppliers we have participate. We want to have more participate. This is something else that Mike, our team, is going to talk with you about. But again, there is value in training when you provide it to our membership. Gateway for Growth. We're going to have a breakout on that as well, on the value of that. How do you partner together and take advantage of it? But again, even during COVID, we didn't grow in 19 or in 20 the way we did in 19, but we still experienced $192 million in purchases through the platform. That represented $5.7 million worth of growth year versus year. The growth percentage within those that used it was almost 11%. And while it wasn't almost 31% like it was in 19, it was still almost 11%. You can see the amount of folks that participated. You can see the amount of folks that engaged. And all we want to do is encourage you. This is another option for you to engage with our members. Project updates, I'm going to be real quick on this stuff, but we're doing an annual survey with our members later this year that's going to focus specifically on what their spend is outside of the group. You as in Supplier are going to be very interested in that because we're going to provide you information, tops downs list, hunting lists if you will, for our members to see what their spend is by category in an aggregate format, but what the spend is outside of Sphere 1 by category for you suppliers to be able to target those members. Mike Schumart and the Young Executive Group have targeted what's called the Sphere 1 Marketplace. That's for service providers to come into the group to enhance our members' opportunities to be more effective, to be, a more strategic member by leaning into some of these opportunities through these service providers. So great stuff there from our Young Executive Group and Mike. We're engaging a lot of our members and suppliers on industry issues, everything that's going on. Look for that to continue. I'm really proud to announce too, we launched a women's group, a women's executive group made up of 5 women, member owners that are a part of this that we just got started with here in April. So much more to share with you on that. Many of you suppliers that are led by women in the industry, believe me, these folks, these ladies are going to be tapping you on the shoulder to encourage you to be a part of this as well and help enhance the experience, not just for you, but for that demographic in this industry that is led by women executives. You're going to hear Mike and I talk about a Canadian opportunity. We'd like to expand what is Sphere 1 north of the border. We started doing a lot of reconnaissance. Carol helped me do a lot of that in 2019 when she was an advisor to our organization and to me personally. We turned over a lot of stones. We were ready to go in 2020, take some next steps. That got stalled because of the C word, right? We're going to resurrect that again later this year. You're going to be hearing more about that as we navigate through the end of the year as we go into STAFTA. I think before I turn it over to our board chairman, I want you all to understand that this is about you, all right? And when I say it's all about you, I say the same thing to our members, but it's also about you as our suppliers. You're a part of a membership that's made up of you, the suppliers, and our members. We're nothing without each other. And kind of going back to that 1% thing, and you think about what Chris Nickick was dealing with, it was about inclusion. It was about togetherness. It was about being tethered with people to move forward with. Man, that's what Sphere 1 is. And that's why when I say it's about you, it's about all of you. So with that, I would love to take this next opportunity to bring up our board chairman, Ron Folk.
Thank you, Rob. I'm reminded of a situation, a dear friend of ours, Larry Johnson, years ago, a founding board member and our treasurer, had to follow Mike Schumart. And he came up on stage, I was standing next to him, he lowered his head and he said, "I'm not Mike Schumart." It's pretty much the same thing when you follow Rob, so bear with me and I'll do my best. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Sphere 1 team and by sharing some of the valuable work Rob, Mike, Sharon, and Catherine have performed. They have done a truly impressive job during constantly changing circumstances. Our annual meeting, thoroughly revamped from live to virtual, adding innovative elements. You've seen some of those already. As many of our supplier partners know, that is quite an involved undertaking. Our website has been successfully redesigned. Please check it out. Much more user-friendly, much more information. Our ERP system has been further integrated, creating greater functionality and information resources. The board is truly impressed with the energy, drive, and dedication this team brings to each of their roles. I'd like to recognize the extensive and continued accomplishment of our service providers, the Rhino Group, and Colleen Goods Tax and Accounting, who have been with us for 20 plus years and continue to be two integral parts of the success we share. The Rhino Group event coordinators, Bob and Joe, have been on this year's unpredictable ride, working with Rob to cancel hotel contracts, negotiate new ones, while avoiding penalties or additional costs to this organization. Colleen and Kathy of Colleen Goods Tax and Accounting demonstrate an attention to detail in day-to-day operations and on our audit that leave our auditing firm saying, "You make it boring." There's probably not a higher compliment from an accounting perspective. It's obvious that e-platforms have been pushed to the forefront in almost every area of our interactions, including doctor's visits, meetings, training, worship services. This trend will slow as things reopen. However, it will continue to grow. Reaching a B2B solution is an apparent need for a lot of our membership. One of the greatest strengths of our organization has been, and will again be, the in-person interaction and relationship building. I can't begin to name all the personal friends I've made and the mentoring I've received from some of the greatest minds in this industry. It is truly one of the hallmarks of Sphere One and is available to all by simply participating. Seeing how our organization is not only surviving but actually continuing to prosper gives me certainty that we will overcome any hurdles placed in our way as we continue to work toward our common goals. Our potential is only limited by our vision and dedication. With that, I give this back to Rob Moe.
Rob. Now we got some pretty cool stuff going on. Because Sphere One is always thinking about dollars, your dollars, suppliers, we try to save as much as we can. We try to limit overhead. So you saw Mike kind of setting stuff out. You're going to see Mike a little bit more. Because Mike's still kind of on probation with Sphere One, even though he's the VP, I asked Mike to go ahead and do some really cool things. And one of those is to set the table and the chairs and everything, getting us ready for later. You know, we are so excited about the opportunity and what we're able to do with you suppliers with this endeavor. We can't thank you enough for being a part of this organization. And I just want to say again, thank you for taking part in this virtual show. Thank you for all you do for our members, and thank you for all you do to support the likes of Mike, our team, and all of our membership.
All right, thank you so much, Rob and Ron. And I mean, what a great introduction to our virtual meeting 2021. I want to thank all the suppliers, right, for tuning in. And obviously, you know, the first part of our show this morning, you know, talking big picture, right? All the things Sphere One is doing, all the platforms we have, the success we've shared together, right? And none of this, as Rob mentioned, is possible without you, our preferred suppliers. But what we wanted to do, since we were doing this virtually, is we wanted to shape this meeting a little bit different, right? And our goal over the next 35 to 40 minutes, and I know we have tons of suppliers on. We have local field representation from the supplier side to national folks, is we want to get in the weeds a little bit. And we've brought in some of our members into California to be part of this live virtual broadcast. And literally, I am rolling up my sleeves right now because in the next 40 minutes, right, we're going to bring in members. We're going to bring in your customers. And at the end of the day, guys, they're going to share with you best practices and ideas of how to win their business, right? How to service them, how to utilize Gateway for growth, what they want to see. I mean, this truly is the behind-the-scenes playbook of how you to make more money, how for you to increase your sales within your territory. So roll up your sleeves a little bit with me. Grab a piece of paper and a pen to take notes, because we're gonna get in and talk about some very, very meaty things. And I'm so excited to introduce our first guest this morning. For those of you that call on her, you know her pretty well. And I'm a little nervous about this interview. This is the second, because I interviewed her this morning for the member meeting and she didn't hit me, which was fantastic. But anyways, we'll get into that a little bit later. But guys, I want to introduce our first guest this morning that's going to talk just about how to service a distributor. And I want you to give a big virtual round of applause. I'm not allowed to clap because this will start blowing up. But a virtual round of applause for Marie Palladora from Ace Tool. You guys know her. Marie, get in here. So just so you know, Marie hates me because she's having to do this. And this is your second rodeo. I mean, this morning she was great. By question number 3, she was flailing her arms, and she may or may not have said the F word. But you know, you'll have to ask the members that were in that meeting to find out. But Marie, this is this topic we're going to talk about, I know for you as we prepped for this,
Right.
this is so important, right? And we had the suppliers on, and I think what a great opportunity for us to talk to these manufacturers on how to win our business, right? And what do members need. And what I want to do is I want to jump in and I want you to put on your Ace Tool hat, right? And your business hat. And I want to know, and the first question I want to ask you is, what are the biggest mistakes your current suppliers make when calling on your company?
Well, not understanding what my business is made of. Basically focusing on 3 different areas. First area being my retail store, my showroom, and the people there. One way to go to market. Another part would be my outside sales, being a woman-owned business, you know, dealing with government, municipalities, large construction, different way to go to market. And then lastly, my e-commerce site.
Yeah. And you bring up such a great point, Marie. And I'm sure for you suppliers, if you've seen our new website, right? One of our biggest focuses, because it's Sphere One, like we're different than maybe some of the other groups out there because our members are so diverse.
Right.
Right? We have members that are focused on the concrete trades, members that are focused on, you know, air fastening and kind of the wood to wood, and then we have our staff to distributors. So they're all a little bit different. And I know we haven't done the best job, right, of really showing our suppliers who our members are, right? In the construction types and trades you call on. Like you said, you have 3 facets to your business. But suppliers, first thing to write down, if you have not checked out our new website or you don't have access to our website, that's where you have to start. Because if you go on to our website and you go to Ace Tool, what Marie just said, boom, it's going to pop up all right there. It's going to tell you her 3 focuses of business, right? It's going to talk about her sales teams. It's going to talk about her niche markets and all those good things because that's key. Right. And I know we all get so busy, right? And we run around and we're like, I know Marie, I know Ace Tool, so I'm going to go service them. So that's a great point. So I think it's one of the biggest things we want to get across to the suppliers this morning is don't think you know all about the distributors and all about the members. And their businesses continue to evolve and use these tools that we have. So coming into question number 2, right? What is the top 2 tips that can help guide the path to success that you can share with suppliers?
Well, first they need to speak to my managers, my key people, my counter people, the people that actually do the work day to day. And then, you know, follow up, follow through.
Yeah.
Critical.
Absolutely. I mean, kind of the basics, but I mean, you bring up a good point because I know from a lot of supplier side, they probably call you a lot.
Right.
So let's talk about, you know, our friends over at Makita or maybe our power tool friends because you are a big power tool house and you work with all the brands. Why shouldn't they always be calling you? What's the value of them calling? Who should they call in your company?
Right. They should call on my salespeople, the people actually doing the job. My key managers, they're placing the purchase orders. They're the ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, with COVID,
right,
and the change so much in being able to be together, right, and all these platforms that have rolled up, the follow up and follow through.
Right.
And I think this is what drives all of us crazy.
Right.
And suppliers, I know this drives you crazy as well. But I want to dig into that, right? Because I hear members say all the time, oh, you got to call on me. You got to come see me. I need benchmarking, right? But it's kind of like, what do you want?
Right.
What do you mean, like follow up? Like what exactly do you want to see in regards to the follow up and follow through from the suppliers? So Marie, what do you want to see at Ace Tool?
Well, I want to see not just emails and Zoom calls. I want them to have face-to-face. I mean, at the end of the day, people buy from people. So it's important that my team knows their team, understands how the program works, how to buy it, the dates. It's complicated today with a lot of different decks that are out there.
Yeah. And you bring up a great point because I know, obviously, with COVID, it's fast-tracked digital, right? I mean, the fact that Zoom a year and a half ago was so foreign to all of us, right? Even like with our board meetings, we're like, oh my gosh, should we be on camera? This is so weird. Now it's just like we're having a meeting. We're all going to be on Zoom.
Right.
Okay, it's fast-tracked, all of this. But at the end of the day, as we start to go back to normal, and I know suppliers, we get this from you guys all the time asking like, what do your members want? And Marie said it. People buy from people. And it's not an age thing. No. Because I love the young executives, right? The young executive group that we started, and they talk so much about technology and and all these old school. We got to move into the new school and all that. But when you said and you get to the root of their partnerships, you know what means the most to them?
What?
How come they don't come see me? They don't understand my business. All those things you just said.
Really?
And these are our young guys. They're all in their 30s. And they'll be like, oh, I'm not going to buy from that supplier because they don't come see me. They don't value my company. I don't see them enough. And so I think you're absolutely right. And I think with these new tools, guys, learning to utilize them because they're good tools, right? But knowing that's not the only tools. And we understand as suppliers, you're busy.
Right.
And they're running around like crazy. And some of these tools make it easy, right? To be like, hey, I'm getting this off my plate and to give you what you need. But as Marie said, is you guys need, as a distributor, they need a deeper penetration with your partnerships, that it doesn't just end with Marie, but it's your salespeople and it's your purchasing people and all that good stuff. So I think that's awesome. So now this is going to be, guys, tune into this, okay? Because this is going to be the thing that everybody talks about.
Uh-oh.
And it's a thing that me and Rob are focused on, and we talk about it consistently, is that it's about converting, right? And it's about, hey,
That's
you're
hard.
buying from, I know, it's tough.
It's hard.
But you're buying from a non-preferred supplier. You've been working with that supplier for a long time, and you want to convert to Sphere One. And I know suppliers, this is truly what we talk to you about, and we'd say, hey, the sustainability of Sphere One. We need to convert this spin that's rogue. We need to convert it right to our preferred suppliers. But it's hard, and converting product lines, it's not easy. And I want the suppliers understanding, because I don't necessarily think they know your heartburn. Can you explain to them why it's so hard to convert a line?
So, first of all, we can't carry too many lines. I have a small showroom. We have to be very careful there, and financially as well. And we need to get what the customer wants. So that's another critical aspect of it. And then updating the system, updating the website, the product, all that. It's not easy to get a product up, a line up.
Yeah, absolutely. Tons of work going on. So suppliers, I think it's important for you to understand that and to understand the heartburn, right? Why it's not easy. But Marie, what do you need? Because I know you focus on this. We talked about this, guys, earlier in the member meeting, right? Marie wanted to win Member of the Year. So she completely jumped in head first Sphere One. And the biggest thing that got you that award was that you converted a bunch of product lines.
Yeah,
that was
absolutely.
it. And you did it, and you're like, man, that was hard. That was a tough year. But can you explain to the suppliers, what do you need? Because the desire's there. You want to make it happen, but what do you need from them to make it happen?
Well, it needs to make financial sense for my business, first of all, and most importantly. We need training. Is this new product up in Sphere One University so that people can get trained? My outside sales team, can they go out with ride-alongs with them? Is the product seated in the market? A whole bunch of different aspects. And then at the end of the day, after you do the sell-through plan and all of that, is it a guarantee to sell?
Yeah.
Are they going to take product off my shelf and convert it over with theirs?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of aspects to that.
And are all of those things you just talked about equally as important?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's tough. And I think suppliers, it's very important for you to understand what the members need. I know some of you are like, oh yeah, we get that, but there's a lot of work that goes into making these conversions happen. And Marie, at the end of the day, and kind of closing up our time together, right? If you could give the suppliers 2 pointers when it comes to working with members on converting products, right? What would those 2 pointers be?
Well, first of all, understand the heartburn. Not easy.
Yep.
Secondly, to build a comprehensive plan together, working together. That's how it works at the end.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. And Marie, I thank you so much. You're kicking us off here with the suppliers. I know she was so excited to be able to talk about this with you guys, because at the end of the day, it goes down to our relationships and us understanding each other, understanding, right, how you go to business, what's important, right, to you, and what makes your world work. So thank you so much. You freaking knocked it out of the park. Absolutely amazing. So with that, I'm going to let you go. Get out of here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And we're going to bring on our next speakers this morning, and I'm going to turn it over to Rob Moe and Todd Klutz that are going to talk about the power of growth incentives. So Rob and Todd, off to you guys.
Wow, that was awesome. I mean, suppliers, I think you've got to appreciate the value of what Mike and Marie just spoke about, right? I know being a supplier to this organization for, well, 16 of its first 22 years. You figure I've been here now 6 years, but I was a supplier to this organization for a long, long time. And I know my mindset and the mindset of the company that I worked for, or companies, there were two that I worked for as supplier for Sphere One. You know, you're a supplier for Sphere One, you come into a buying group, co-op, whatever, because you want a leg up. You want a leg up versus the other suppliers that aren't a part of the organization to give you something that makes you better for that member. And one of the things I know that we always focused on was, well, really, what motivates a member beyond base rebates? And, you know, yeah, every group has got platforms, things you can dive into, be a part of, but really, what can you do to encourage, incentivize, create a difference that somebody has to tap into? One of the biggest parts of that is growth incentives, right? You saw probably in my earlier slides that I shared with you, for the first time ever, we showed suppliers the value of what growth incentives mean to Sphere One. We shared with you how many suppliers are a part of that, all leading to one thing: steering members to you, growing organically. You couple incentives, base rebates together with planning platforms like Gateway for Growth, and you've got a two-pronged approach with what can help you as a supplier build a deeper foundation with the Sphere One members. Do you know that 80% of our preferred suppliers offer growth incentives in their agreements? They come in 3 forms: individual, group, and combined incentives. If you are one of those that does not provide a growth piece, all we want to do is let you know that you're on Mike's and my radar, right? We're going to be tapping you on the shoulder to try and encourage you to, hey man, dive in a little bit deeper with our members. It leads to nothing but your success. If you don't offer one, you may kind of be on the outside looking in, even though you're a preferred supplier for Sphere One. You know, one of the next person that's coming up, Todd Klutz from Pioneer out of Texas and Oklahoma, is one of those people when I was a supplier that used to beat me up a little bit. Todd and the owner of Pioneer, Tom Broadband, I think they helped me as kind of a junior leader and stuff like that, provide me some calluses over the years to better understand the value of being a provider of products to a cooperative. We asked Todd to come in to go ahead and help you better understand as suppliers what really is in the mind of our members, or what should be. So with that, Todd, come on in, buddy. Love to have you with us. Thanks, buddy. You know, Todd, jumping right in, Pioneer has been a part of Sphere One since 2004, okay? And with that in mind, you guys probably went through a lot of processes over the years of experiencing how you could get the most out of Sphere One. I mean, with that in mind, I mean, how have you guys driven your culture over the years, you know, to make the most out of what it is to be a member within Sphere One?
It's all about utilizing all of the programs that are in place. There's wonderful programs in place that help us maximize our relationships with our vendors and then ultimately the spend with those vendors.
Gotcha. And Todd, you know, with that, what motivates Pioneer when considering suppliers to do business with? Do incentives, you know, kind of on top of base rebates typically drive enough of an incentive for you to shift business?
Relationships are the first thing, but obviously when we dive deeper, as we do every year, individual growth incentives as well as group growth incentives are at the top of the list when we consider, you know, who and where we spend our money.
Gotcha. Well, you know, and we're all coming out of, well, we're really, I think, coming out of some very interesting times for the distributors as well as for the suppliers of Sphere One. And with these challenging times, taking those into consideration, are incentives even more important today when making a decision to do more business with a supplier?
Absolutely. You know, over the last year to 18 months, at times things have been difficult, and instead of just getting whatever the customer wanted, we've consolidated our purchasing down to those vendors within Sphere One that offer the best incentive for us to do that and give us the best opportunity to maximize our spend and then our rebate dollars.
Gotcha. You know, Todd, Pioneer too has always been one of the leaders in one of our major platforms, Gateway for Growth. Why is Gateway for Growth so important to someone like Pioneer and to your success in your, building of your relationships with our suppliers?
Gateway for Growth really does two things. It helps to build relationships because if it's done right, you're talking to and you're collaborating with your vendors on a regular basis about those programs. And then in turn, it builds the spend and the purchases that we do with those vendors. It's wonderful.
Excellent. And I mean, coming off of that and kind of segueing into this, what suggestions do you have for suppliers to best lay out Gateway for Growth programs with the members? I know you and I have talked over the years, suppliers come to our members with canned programs, a check the box for every member, paint every Sphere 1 member with that broad brush, but that's really not that successful. So, I mean, it's really a two-pronged question. What really advice do you have for them to build a program with a member? And the second part of that is, why do you think suppliers come up short if they develop a program that's just a canned program?
Well, this is a huge part of this is for them to know us as a vendor or as a distributor. Don't come with a canned plan. We don't want those. Don't email those to us and expect us to sign them and send them back. Understand what we're looking for. Have your local people involved with the planning of that with us. There's regular follow-up that needs to be done. There's all kinds of aspects about this program that need to be looked at, followed up on, and adjusted as we go along.
I think that's a great point, and something that even isn't a part of our questions or our presentation here, just kind of got me thinking with what Todd just said. Suppliers, you're in the midst of obviously taking in this program with us here, but coming out of this, you're going to have a whole lot of tabletop or virtual tabletop appointments you're going to be diving into with our members. We have about a third to half of our annual tabletop meetings lead to a Gateway for Growth program for the back half of the year. Utilize this time through the virtual aspect to engage more members of your team with the leadership of people like Pioneer, and I think you'll have a hell of a back half of 2021 just by kind of using that footprint. Todd, if you could suggest two things for a supplier to take advantage of with our members, what would those be?
I would say the two really important things right now in my mind would be individual growth incentives and or group incentives along with that, and then utilizing Gateway for Growth to achieve those the growth that that's possible.
That's excellent. That's excellent. And I think that brings us kind of to our closing, right? What would you like to share based on what we've discussed that kind of wraps all this up into a nice package, brings it home? Can you provide some insight on why growth incentives and Gateway for Growth work or should be something a preferred supplier should use with our members overall?
They should use them because it's a no-brainer. Gateway for Growth and the growth incentives work hand in hand with one another. And it's a win-win for both sides. If we increase our purchases, they win by getting those purchases. We win by getting some incentive on the backside from that. It's just it's a wonderful program both ways. And the one thing I want to say about Gateway for Growth to the suppliers is those can be done at any time. There's no time frame, no timetable. I know that you guys as a management staff like all that to be put in, but at any time during the year that anybody approached me with a plan that laid out some goals and strategies, we're willing to work with them.
That's awesome, and I love what Todd just brought up because we like to have everything at the end of every year rolling into the next year wrapped up in that bow. Just because again, coming from the supplier network and side of things, it creates a level of consistency. But to the point we made a little bit ago, the annual meeting, in this case coming up the virtual appointments, give you an opportunity to lay something in place because of what Todd just said. Other groups have a drop dead date. Once things are over, it's over. Sphere 1 has always had it be, very open in that regard. I just want to say to all of you as suppliers that our platforms are hugely important. We're going to talk about Sphere 1U in a little bit, but when you hear what Mike and Marie talked about earlier and how they utilize things, Marie and her team, to make more out of what it is like or to be a member of Sphere One. And then you hear what Todd just talked about. I mean, this is coming from the voice of a member. It's not Mike and Rob up there on the stage beating folks over the head with it. This stuff works. Okay, I almost said it, Mike, sorry. This stuff works, okay? And it always has worked. What we just want people to do is just be more intentional with what they do. I'd love to now turn this back over to Mike and Suzanne to talk about the power of the entire Sphere One membership, 160 strong. Thank you, everybody. Well done, man.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Rob and Todd. What a great discussion, talking just about the power of growth incentives, the power of partnership through Gateway for Growth. So this next topic, I think, it's one that's near and dear to my heart. It's near and dear to our board and really the majority of our membership, right? And we're calling this next segment 160 Strong. Because at the end of the day, we know U.S. suppliers, right? I mean, you only have so much time in your day, right? And you have your territory and you have all the customers that you need to serve. And you have big customers and small customers, and we get it, right? You're chasing big POs, and that's the way sales work. But over the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to invite my good friend Suzanne from Man Tool and Supply to join me, and we almost want to advocate to you and talk to you about the power of our entire membership. And I think the value in why you joined Sphere One, right? Obviously, as a supplier, you joined Sphere One because you have these big opportunities with these big distributors that write big POs and really, from your standpoint, drive your needle, right, and drive your success. But when you look at the data, and Rob shared it earlier today when he opened up for us this morning, and you look to see where growth comes from, the power of all of our membership is strong. And the opportunity for you to be part of Sphere One and utilize our platforms and our meetings and all these different tools to reach our members, we want to just advocate to you to think about our entire membership. So with that, I'm going to shut up and bring up our next guest. Let's give a nice virtual round of applause first from Suzanne Brennemer from Man Tool and Supply. Suzanne, come on up. Thank you for joining us this morning. This is round 2 for Suzanne because we were on this morning with our members, right, talking about the power of our membership. And Suzanne, you really represent our smaller distributors, right? And you've been part of Sphere One for a long time, and we've had lots of conversations. This is a conversation that we have with our board, right? Is how do we continue to advocate to our manufacturers, right? To get them to truly support all of our members and not just the big guys. And so, with everyone tuning in right now, as a distributor and as one of our smaller distributors, why should the suppliers support you? And even though you guys can't write these big POs that some of these other bigger distributors can.
Well, Mike, there is strength in numbers. 160 strong. We're one of that 160, just like the name at the top of the list. And there are a lot of other companies like us. And Sphere One fosters that business. So it makes sense that the suppliers buy into what Sphere One does to support its smaller members.
Yeah. Now, when we were talking and we were prepping for all this, you have this, it's so funny because I love Patrick Swayze. Like Point Break, surf movie, if you haven't seen it, freaking amazing. But you have this whole theory about the Swayze, right? And how you kind of view our members. Can you explain that, our membership? Can you explain that to the suppliers?
Yeah. Have you ever seen Roadhouse?
I have.
Rated.
Did you know that Rob named his son after Dalton, Patrick
No.
Swayze? And I swear to God. So fun fact. There you go. You're welcome. So yeah. But anyways.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got these 3 rules. Dalton has 3 rules in the movie Roadhouse. And the first one is never underestimate your opponent. Expect the unexpected. Well, it's significant because in this movie he's like 5'10", $160,
Yeah.
and he's the boss of the bouncers. Okay, so his philosophy is 3 simple rules. Number 1, hit that one. Never underestimate your opponent. Well, we don't want to think we're opponents, but we definitely don't want to be underestimated. And there is power in numbers. When you're dealing with a small supplier, the likelihood that you're dealing with an owner or someone with executive level decision making is high.
Yeah.
They know their stuff. They have to. There are no large departments to fall back on. So you know, take the time to think about that and not underestimate who you're dealing with. And then secondly, he says, take it outside. Well, we hope we never have to take it outside, but, you know, it is the South, you know, we can do that. But outside the box, be creative, be willing to tailor your solutions to your member, your distributor partners. And I think, you know, my colleagues today have already hit on that, but there is no one size fits all. And the more seriously you take that and the more intent you are on crafting these solutions to truly be a partner, the further it's going to go. And finally, be nice. It sounds so simple, but be considerate. Take time to schedule with your distributors. Understand their challenges. Part of being nice, we learn when we're growing up, is sharing. Share your tools. You know, these suppliers, some of them are very large. They have very useful tools for their staff.
Right.
Share it with me and my staff. You have order builders. You have portals. You have solid inside contacts that can help shoulder that customer service load. And ultimately, that will help us all get there and, you know, make us a better partner. And make our suppliers better partners to us.
Absolutely, and I love that. And I love that Swayze analogy. And so let's dig into that, right? So suppliers, you're hearing this. I think we're all like, oh, that makes so much sense. But how did the Swayze, you know, your Swayze strategy, or however you want to call it, how did it impact your business? Can you share some success stories of how that's helped Man Tool and Supply?
Sure, absolutely. I think DeWalt has become particularly adept with us at this. You know, they're going to roll out a price change. Well, that's a big deal for us. It's a lot for us to implement. It's a lot for us to consider passing on to our customers. But they usually leave that door open just a little bit to work with us. There's some key SKUs that we need to be competitive on. There are some places where we need to be aggressive. And so, yeah, we'll take the whole price change as a package, but be willing to tailor just a few things to suit our market and how we go to market with our products.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. I mean, you heard about it with Todd earlier. Just what makes sense for your business. And you guys, unfortunately, it's not cookie cutter, right? Everybody's not the same, and everybody needs something different. Now, you know, let's talk about some of the smaller members, you know, who maybe are in more remote locations. How can suppliers best call on them, knowing that maybe they can't go see them in person, or just maybe, you know, the account amount doesn't justify them, you know, spending a ton of time in person because they only have so much time in their day, right? How can those suppliers better serve those smaller distributors?
Well, I'm sure on the in-person calling there's a happy medium. And I don't need to see somebody every month, maybe not every 6 weeks. The key for us is more scheduling. Understand the time and distance constraints and plan accordingly. You know, I can make room in my schedule. Don't just call me up and say, I happen to be in your area. I'm coming to see you. Well, it's great. You can stop by. I may not be there, but, you know, take that into consideration. That scheduling is part of being nice.
Right.
You know, have some good manners about working on a solution that works for everybody. And like, I can't say enough about the time aspect for these decision makers is to respect that.
Yeah, and it's so important. I think it's important, suppliers. And, you know, it's funny. I think Rob and I professionally identify more with our suppliers, right? Working for larger companies, more tools and things like that. But what we love so much about Sphere One and working with our distributors, it's important for you guys to understand all that they go through, right? I mean, Suzanne, if the warehouse delivery guy doesn't show up for work because he's sick, guess who's delivering, you know, product? You are, right? Or if the guy who sweeps the floor doesn't show up, you're sweeping the floor. And it's so encompassing, and like you said, and sometimes overwhelming, right? But with all the things you have to do to run a small business, I do hear you so much of just that cadence and that scheduling. And the fact that we do have these new tools. We talked about it with Marie and being able to fit in maybe Zoom calls and things like that, but creating that cadence and being respectful to the distributor and knowing that, I mean, you guys love that and you really yearn for that, right?
We do. I mean, and you're not going to have all your distributors, the small or large, that want to do this the same way. If your customer wants a hard copy, put it in the mail.
Yeah.
Make that preparation for your next virtual or phone call or in-person meeting. Just do some planning and prep. It'll go a long way.
So big question of the day, okay? Why do you think it's so important for these suppliers to have an impact on the smaller members? Like, what do you think how will that move the needle for their business?
Well, people don't mind having attention paid to them. Yes. You know, it makes you feel important. And the people inside of these organizations are all important. Every member of Sphere 1 is important. Every member of Sphere 1 has a vote. Yeah. Everyone in Sphere 1 has a voice. And if you'll take time to listen to it and understand how your clients want to do business, it'll pay off for all parties.
Yeah. And I mean, and we were talking earlier today, and you look at the numbers, right? And the numbers that Rob shared this morning. And it was interesting to see. It's an 80-20 rule that's in any business, right? 20% of our distributors are probably driving close to 80% of that business. But when you look at those 80% of distributors, they were the ones that actually grew this year. The 20% didn't grow. They actually went backwards. So the growth that we achieved within the organization was from that 80%. And suppliers, I mean, we know you're all busy, and I think the spirit of this is truly, again, it's just to advocate, right? Is we try to create tools and resources for you, whether it's our new website, whether it's the planning platforms or the training platforms, to truly connect with our members. But at the end of the day, please consider everybody, because they're all valuable. They've all been vetted, right? We bring in truly the best of the best, and they all can be such a benefit to your company. So with that, Suzanne, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing with our suppliers just your heart and your passion for, I truly think, the backbone of Sphere 1, right? And what drives us. And suppliers, thank you for just your continued consideration and continued investment in what we're doing. So with that, we're out. And now I'm excited. Our last topic today is going to be on training. And we're going to bring up Rob Moe and Joe Wibbenmeyer to do that. So Suzanne, let's get out of here. I'm going to eat some pizza right now. So let's go.
Mike, Suzanne, well done. Created a great segue for us here for us to talk about really the power of Sphere 1 University. We have Joe Wibbenmeyer with us today of New Way, with us to share really with our supplier partners the value of Sphere 1 University from a member's perspective. I'm not sure if all the suppliers are aware, but Sphere 1 is lucky to have something pretty amazing in place for its suppliers to help them engage with our member partners. Sphere 1 University is the largest online university in North America with more than 1,000 modules for our member learners, provided by 91 of you preferred suppliers, and it's growing all the time. To again help us help you better understand from a member's perspective the value of our university and why you should participate more if you are participating now, and if you're not participating in our university platform, why you should. With that, I'd like to welcome Joe Wibbenmeyer from New Way. Hey Joe, great to see you, buddy. Thanks so much for doing this. So Joe, as a leader with New Way, why is training provided by our preferred suppliers so important to you and the folks at New Way?
Well, consumers won't buy it from people if they don't know product.
Okay.
Training improves brand loyalty, builds relationships between the supplier and the salesperson, and between the salesperson and the customer.
That makes it's really pretty simple, isn't it? I mean, in the whole scope of things. Joe, a question, if you can share the why factor of New Way, when we were talking about laying out our questions and our content for this, you talked about the why factor at New Way. What does that represent for your team with the why factor?
Well, with company procedures and policies, I always try to explain the why, because I feel if you can explain the why, you do it that way, the employees better understand it and they stick to them.
Right.
So, when suppliers put information on literature, they need to explain why. Why is it so important? Amps and horsepower, that's great to know, but why is that important? Yeah. Lately everyone knows labor is hard to find and keep. And labor is typically the most expensive part of a project. So on product information, explain how it can save labor. Tools and equipment are designed to make the contractor money. If they're not running, they're not making money.
Right.
So if the engine has a air filtration system, which makes the engine run longer, requiring less maintenance, or if the gas tank, is large enough capacity where it can run all day long, they need to explain that and how it saves labor and boosts productivity. Each week our marketing department creates what we call a weekly marketing brief. And on the brief has all the current suppliers' promotions. But then also on it we have, I call it the manufacturer's minute.
Okay.
Where we pick out a certain particular item and we'll have 4 or 5 bullet points and we'll explain the why. Why are those features so important? How does it save time and labor and boost productivity for the customer? So that, because we feel if we can make our salespeople experts, they're going to sell more and demand a higher margin.
Right. Joe, is something like that, and I know this isn't part of our questions here, so forgive me for kind of going off on this, but is having a culture like that difficult to establish, or is it really pretty easy? You just have to want to do it.
It really comes easy, but yeah, you have to want to do it. You have to get the key people involved.
Gotcha.
Because it all starts with them.
Gotcha. And with that, and with the ever-challenging times that everybody has experienced, whether you're a supplier in this industry or as a member, does online training present any obvious advantages versus face-to-face opportunities together with suppliers? And if so, how so, outside of the obvious?
Well, what I like about online training is that they can do it on their own time, on their schedule. And most important about it is that online training deals with the senses that are so important when you're trying to retain information. You hear it, you see it, and you write it down.
Right.
All that is so important, like I said, when you're trying to retain information. Face-to-face, hands-on training is great. But starting with online and then followed up with the hands-on, face-to-face, we then see that you get better interaction between the trainer and the trainee. And we feel that that's the best method. In fact, I've seen some cases where afterwards you see the trainee training the trainer or
right.
selling it to the trainer.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, and it's kind of interesting, and for you suppliers out there that might be into Sphere One University and providing content, or for those that haven't seen really the benefit of it yet, right, outside the costs associated with it, you hear from, again, one of our members, and there's lots of them that utilize this platform in many, many ways. I think the big thing that I just heard from Joe say that I would love for you guys to all pick up on is don't rely on one thing versus another. Combine things. And usually together, that creates that interaction, that opportunity, that best practice or method for you to capture mind share with our member network, right? I mean, brainwash them with the value of your products and how to sell products. Joe, as a member owner, leading the team at New Way, why should a Sphere One preferred supplier use or consider using Sphere One U? What separates a supplier? I mean, do you guys, when you look at potentially doing business with a supplier, do you look to see if they provide content? And if so, does that kind of enhance your thought process with doing more business with them because they're making an investment in you with content on our university, or no?
Well, my main job at New Way is the purchasing manager.
Okay.
And I replace what salespeople sell. And salespeople sell what they know.
There you
It's
have it.
simple as that. But, we've all heard the old saying about, you can lead a horse to water. Right? We lead our salespeople to Sphere One University. And when they realize they are competing with all the other Sphere One members across the country, that's when they start drinking the water.
Right.
And that, to me, that Sphere One University or Sphere One University Award, that ought to be called the Employees Award because it's 100% them. It's their efforts, it's their hard work, it's their participation in Sphere One University because they want to get that national recognition. And suppliers that participate in Sphere 1 University, they are the ones that are filling the trough. So if you keep filling the trough, they will keep drinking the water.
Right, right.
You know, because the employees want to get that national recognition, and that's something that they can't get with any other training.
Right, right. You know, Joe, what would you like to share? And you can share anything that brings all of this home, but can you share maybe a tidbit or some insight on why Sphere 1U should be something a preferred supplier could use? I mean, could you tie that together with any kind of a story or, you know, something that makes sense to you?
Well, growing up in St. Louis, you know, I've driven past the Gateway Arch thousands of times. And every time I drive past it, I say to myself, now there's a perfect example of a group of people working together and building the impossible. You know, the Gateway Arch is not only a beautiful monument, but it's an engineering marvel. And not only the arch, but the equipment that had to be designed and built to build the arch is amazing in itself. You know, the elevator, the tram that takes the people to the top, that too, I mean, it's amazing piece of equipment. The guy that designed it, it took him 2 weeks to design the elevator, the tram. And when he was doing his presentation to the architects, the engineers, the contractors, and the government officials, his presentation took about an hour. And it was followed up with about 3-4 hours worth of question and answers. And the presentation finally ended with one of the engineers asked the guy, "What are you?" Well, he knew if he would say, "I'm a college dropout with no engineering degree," he wouldn't get the contract.
Right.
So his response when he was asked, "What are you?" he goes, "I'm 38 years old." The room erupted in laughter, and he got the contract. And what's really interesting also is that after the arch was built, he went on to work for the National Park Service in their maintenance department so that he can maintain and take care of his elevator. So when I was on the way to the airport, I drove past the arch and I looked at it, and I started thinking about the movie that they made during the construction of the arch. Mm-hmm. It's a fantastic documentary. It's an award-winning documentary. And in fact, George Morgan, our past chairman of the board, when he saw the movie afterwards, I asked him, I said, "What'd you think?" And he goes, "It made my butt pucker a couple times." So on the way out here, I kept on thinking about the building of the arch in that movie and the crews. And I was thinking about, you know, they had 2 crews. They all worked for the same company. But they had one crew that started on the north leg and one crew that started on the south leg.
Okay.
And they all challenged each other to work hard, work safe, work smart, because if they were off a 1/16 of an inch, by the time they got to the top, it could mean disaster. So as they laid each section of the leg and the crew began to rise up out of the ground. Now imagine each section is a course or a number of courses in Sphere 1 University. So as they laid each section after section, course after course, the legs and the crews began to rise up out of the ground. And as they kept on adding section after section, the legs not only got taller, but the crews and the legs became closer together. And during this whole time, they all had the same goal in mind. And that was to make it to the top and become one. And that's Sphere 1.
Joe, that's a great story, because for you suppliers that have become a part of Sphere 1, you want the advantage of being a part of our supplier network so you and members can come together, right? Members are thinking the same thing, right? They're trying to ascend, you know, their businesses in a positive way, grow their businesses, become more substantial in their markets, and suppliers, you can help. And I think if you aren't taking advantage of really all the assets that Sphere One provides, Sphere One University is a great place for you to start. And I guess all that I ask you to do as we close out this part of today is to please start using what we can provide to you. Call Mike, call Sharon, call Catherine, call me. You know, me coming from the Supplier Network, I could probably lend you a pretty good amount of insight on why the university is important. But I also encourage you to talk to members like Joe. We have a lot of them that use it. And talk with them about the value of the university and how that helps them work more effectively with you. You know, again, Suppliers, we're so grateful for you and all that you do for us. All we're trying to do is provide you nuggets of opportunities, and I hope that you appreciate that. You know, with that, I'd love to turn it over to Mike to close out today and get us started and rolling into tomorrow. But Joe, thank you so much for your time, and thanks so much for sharing that. I love the art story. I think that's excellent, man. Thanks so much, man.
Thanks, Rob.
Rob and Joe, thank you so much. Just great intel, and I want to give it up for our board members who took time to fly out to California, to be here with us this morning, to truly share with you our suppliers, our partners, kind of behind the scenes, behind the curtain of what they're looking for and really how to win with their businesses. You know, we hope you all got a lot out today. We hope you picked up some nuggets that you can share with your team, maybe that you can implement in how you go to market in business with our distributors. And we hope you really got a lot of value out of this. And with that, Suppliers, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for being here with us. I want to thank you for involving your teams. That's what today was all about. And that's what our virtual meeting is all about, right? The fact that we're not confined by a ballroom or by 2 days, you know, that we can really spread the message out to all of our teams. Thank you for the commitment. I mean, the attendance this morning has been absolutely phenomenal, and we just appreciate your investment in Sphere One. So we got a couple more events coming up for you guys. The Inside Scoop starts here really soon. It's at 12 o'clock Pacific, so make sure and tune in for that. It's going to be phenomenal. Send the link out to all your teams. We're really going to be talking about what it takes to be better, what it takes to be relentless, right? Overcoming maybe obstacles and challenges in your life and creating culture with your teams and all that good stuff. So don't miss out on that. And then tomorrow we have our award show at 4 o'clock Pacific. So make sure to be ready. You know, if you want to get dressed up or you just want to wear your sweats, that's okay, you choose. But what is mandatory is you better have a cocktail in your hand, because we are going to celebrate everybody's success that we had in 2020. And before I leave you, I want to make sure you know one link for all of these meetings. It's up on the screen. You use this link to log into this meeting. That's the same link for the Inside Scoop. And it's the same link for the award show tomorrow at 4 o'clock. So share it with your teams. If you want to invite more people, the more the merrier. And again, guys, we appreciate you, and I can't wait to see you later on this afternoon.